Hi everyone, and welcome to my track guide around Nurburgring Grand Prix for the Formula Renault 2.0 Season 4 2018. Before we start, let me go over a few general notes. The demo lap is driven in default morning weather. I'm using the VRS setup, so I cannot reveal the setup parameters. However, I can say that in my opinion, this kind of truck will benefit from high downforce setup due to the fast turns in this track. I will play the full lap for you without any comments first, and then I will go into a turn-by-turn analysis. If you find this track guide useful to you and want me to produce more track guides like this in the future, please hit the like button. I hope you will enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's jump into the cockpit view and play the full lap first. Okay, so let's start the turn-by-turn analysis. So we're crossing the start-finish line and approaching turn 1, which is basically a hairpin. We're gonna brake a few meters after the 100 meter sign on the left and after the start of the left curb. Here we're gonna start braking just about here. We're gonna downshift 5 gears from 7 gears to second gear, and we're gonna get to full throttle just after the apex, which is around here. Here is what this um, this is where the apex is, and this is where we have to look from now on. So hard braking, downshifting into second gear, hitting the apex, and back to the throttle now. You have to watch out not to hit the beginning of this red and white curve. Otherwise, you will get 1x. So coming back to the track just before this um, left curb, you will see that immediately after this turn, I'm turning the car to the right of the track in order to open the radius for the next turn, to turn number 2. Because if I'll approach it from here, I will have to decrease the speed of the turn, and I want to take this turn in maximum speed as possible, as always. So I'm opening up the radius for this next turn. So I'm turning all the way all the way to the right to the right side of the track, and I'm turning into this apex. And right about here is where I'm start releasing the throttle in order for me to succeed hugging this curb, this left curb. And you will see that I'm fathering with the throttle all all the time when I'm hugging the curb, and until I'm back to full throttle. So I'm hugging the curb until the car points to, toward this white building. When I see this white building after the fence over here, this is my marker to hit the throttle back again. So just a sec. You can see here I'm not seeing the building, and just about here is the first time I see the white building, and right about here is where I'm back on the throttle again. And my aim is to track out all the way to the right, but not too far to the right, otherwise I will get 1x. You can go even further from what I did this lap. Let's look at from the chase point of view. You can even hit the Ashrotef with your right wheels, but don't go over too much, otherwise you will get 1x once again. Okay, so we're approaching turn number 3, which is a left-hander. Over here, I don't have a specific brake marker. My brake marker is this access road that you can see by my mouse marker. So I'm approaching the turn 3, and here is where I start my braking. I assess with my eyes the distance between myself, the car, and this access road, and about here is where I'm brake. I wanna decrease my speed quite a bit. Um, in order for me to succeed to hug this curve. It's really important to hug this curve because turn 3 is actually kind of a compromise turn in order for me to be able to open the radius for turn number 4, which is the Mercedes arena, which comes afterwards. So you can see that before I start braking, my speed is around 167 kilometers per hour. I'm braking not so hard, but I'm losing a lot of speed in purpose, and when I approach the start of the curb, my speed is around 105 kilometers per hour. So I lost around 62 kilometers per hour in order for me to hug this curb, and that is what I'm doing. Don't go too much over this curb or you will get a 1x. And as we approach the end of this curve, I'm back on the throttle. Not full throttle immediately, but like 40% throttle. And I'm starting to turn right for turn number 4, the Mercedes Arena. Um, I found that if I'm turning my wheel from the left to the right too sharply, the rear of the car, the rear of the car become loose. So do it progressively, the turn from left to right. Otherwise, um, you'll feel that from time to time your rear become loose. So I'm approaching turn number 4. I'm approaching the apex with full throttle. When I hit the apex, I release the throttle a bit, but not completely, only to about 40%. Now my aim is that my right tires will cut the curb, will be entirely on the red and white curve and even a bit further, as you see from the front of my right wheel, but not a lot more than that, or you will get 1x. So it's always look like from the cockpit point of view that I'm cutting the curb more than I really do, but this is about where you should do it, because if you do some more, you will get a 1x. So in the apex, I'm releasing the throttle from full throttle to 40%. And as soon as I leave the apex, I'm going back to full throttle, track out all the way to the left in order to gain speed. And basically, this turn 5 it's a straight, so we're approaching immediately to turn number 6. I'm braking few meters after the last cone, so it would be around here. This is where I start my braking. I'm looking at the left curve over here, and my aim is for a regular apex, not too early and not too late. Earlier apex, and I'm gonna trail back all the way to the apex, and then I'm gonna be back on the throttle. So here I'm hitting the apex and back to the throttle, and I'm approach turn number 7, which is called the forward curve. Um, as I'm starting my braking few meters before the right curve. Um, it's a soft braking. I'm dividing the brake application into two applications. The first one is just to slow the car down, and the second one is trail brake that all its aim is to help rotating the car, because I really need to hug this curve in order for me to get back to full throttle as soon as possible. And I find that with this current setup that I use, I really need to use trail braking to help rotate the car. Maybe with other setup, you don't have to use trail braking but with this my current setup, I really need to use trail braking, and I find it helpful. So start braking around here, going down 2 gears to second gear, hugging the apex, and back to full throttle. You'll see I'm just releasing the throttle a bit and back to full throttle in order to make it without going out of the track limits. But it's really important to go as soon as possible to full throttle, because there is a long straights afterwards. My braking marker for turn number 8 is basically uh, this rectangle, the gray rectangle that I'm pointing at. Um, it's again one of these braking markers where I'm assessing with my eyes the distance between the car and the braking marker. I don't have any better reference for you than that. This is how I do it. So I'm brake around here, slowing the car just until here. All the time I'm looking at the apex, which is a really late apex. It's a hairpin and it's a late apex. And I'm trail braking all the way to the apex and then back to full throttle. So I'm going down from sixth gear into second gear, I believe. Yeah, into second gear, trail braking all the time, and just even before the apex, you can see how early I'm going back to full throttle. Over here, I'm starting I still didn't hit the apex even. I started with the throttle application, and right here I'm with full throttle already, and only here is where I'm hitting the apex. But there is wide enough track out in order for me to be able to get back to full throttle and still make it uh, on the track limits. Um, Turn 9, which is called, by the way, Michael Schumacher S, and turn 10, I basically treat them as a straight because taking them in full throttle. What I found helpful in turn number 10 in Michael Schumacher S is, first of all, you can see that I'm not going all the way to the right with such a high downforce. Um, I don't need to do it, and then I'm making the track shorter. This is one point. And the other point, I find it useful in turn 10 to take an early apex and hugging this curb, and this allow me in turn 10 to hardly rotate the wheel and just to straighten the wheel and treat it as a straight. So basically, I'm taking really early apex, hugging the apex, and then I'm just straightening the wheel for turn 11, for turn 10, excuse me. So we are approaching turn 11. I'm gonna brake a few meters before the 100-meter sign, just about here. Um, Already here, when I start braking, I'm looking toward the apex. My aim is to take an early apex and to cut this curb quite a bit. Um, so I'm braking here, quite strong braking and trail brake all the way to the apex. I'm cutting the apex quite a lot. It looks quite a lot from the cockpit point of view, but when I look it from chase point of view, you can see that my left wheels are going completely all over the red and white curve, and my front left wheel is going even over the green part of the curb. This is necessary because I want to get back into the throttle as soon as possible. And another thing I found it helpful in this turn is that here I'm back to the throttle, but I cannot go to full throttle immediately when my wheel is uh, still turned so much to the left. So another thing that I found it important over here in order not to lose the rear of the car is to straighten the wheel as soon as possible. And I can do it if I cut uh, this curve as much as possible, and then I'm just making this turn straight as possible. So I'm back to the throttle on the apex and straighten the wheel as much as I can in order for me to get back to full throttle. And what's very important over here, in order to success with turn number 12, which is this right-hander to come, is really after completing turn 11, turning the car to the left of the side of the track to open the radius for turn number 12. Now, because after turn 12 there is a long, long straight, the most important thing in turn 12, in my opinion, is the exit and to get to full throttle as soon as possible. So, around here is where I'm start releasing the throttle from full throttle to zero throttle, and I'm gonna use soft trail braking and feathering the throttle in order for me to rotate the car, the soft trail braking to help me rotate the car, hit the right apex, and going back to full throttle. So you see soft trail braking and feathering with the throttle. I'm hugging the curb, and right here is where I'm about to go to full throttle. You can even, in some of my other laps, I even succeed go to back full throttle even earlier, but this is the point where you should be in full throttle. So full throttle on the apex, and now all the way until the middle chicane. It's a full throttle. Now, um, the thing I found in default morning weather is that it's useful, although you see that the revs are hit the limiter, is useful to leave it in sixth grade and not upshifting to seventh grade to seventh gear. Pardon. Um, when you will race in colder weather or when you will be in draft, there will be times you will need to upshift into seventh gear, but I find that from this breaking point that we're gonna talk about it in a minute, and the chicane there is a small distance, and if you have to go down from seventh gear to second gear, it's harder to go down from sixth gear to second gear. So if you don't have to keep it on sixth gear, I'm gonna brake somewhere in the middle between the 100 sign and the 50 meter sign, although it is closer than the one to the 100-meter sign than the 50. Um, I prefer to be conservative and to slow down to a reasonable speed for the first turn of the Vidal chicane. So I'm gonna be downshift. I'm gonna start the braking about here. I'm going to be downshifting four gear into second gear. I'm looking at the first apex, which is about here. I'm going to be trail braking all the way to the apex. And I want to approach the apex in a diagonal way, not, let's see it from the chase point of view. I want to hit the apex in some, you see the car, how it's diagonal to the apex. I tried many lines. I tried to come like that, and I try to come like that in a straight line. I find this angle to be the most appropriate one because it's allow me to get back to full throttle around here and to gain speed for the next turn. So let me go back to cockpit view. Here I'm already in second gear. I'm trail braking all the way to the apex, and just after the apex I'm back on the throttle. I'm releasing it a bit for the next turn and back to full throttle as soon as possible and as the car stabilize. And we are about to approach our the last turn of the course. Here again, I don't have a specific brake marker. I'm looking at the start of this at this curb because my apex is just around here on the beginning of the fence. you cannot see it. You can see the white part of the fence because the mirror don't allow us to see the fence. But this is the apex. But I'm looking for braking purposes. I'm looking at this curb, at the green part of the curb, and I'm braking just about here. I prefer looking at the curb. Some may look at the first cone and take a reference point. My reference point is this part of the curb because you should look at the apex always. Um, so this is where I'm braking. I'm uh, shifting down one gear to third gear, and right about here, which is around the apex. The apex is here. I'm back on the throttle, not immediately full throttle because you can lose the rear a lot of the times. So I'm just feeling when I gaining back the grip of the tires, and when I feel that the car gained the grip, I'm increasing the throttle as soon as possible because this can gain me and you a lot of time. And from here and then, I'm just full throttle, crossing the start finish line, gearing up until second speed. And that's it. This is my first track guide that I'm doing. I'm sure I will get better in this in the next to come. I hope you enjoy it, and I wish you all the best. Bye bye.